Alright, there are quite a few questions in the discussion board regarding mnemonics and why we gave these mnemonics in the last PowerPoint. So I'm going to go through kind of the reasoning for that and explain them. And if they work for you, great, use them. If they don't, then you can completely ignore them and memorize the material any way you wish. Basically, a mnemonic is any process we can use to remember information. So things that are difficult to memorize. For instance, one most of us have learned back in elementary school is Roy G. Biv. And most of you have memorized that that name stands for the colors of the rainbow. So Roy G. Biv is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And that's just a common mnemonic so that you can remember the various colors in a rainbow. We're going to talk about the mnemonics for the history of what we've known about an atom and how we knew it. You do need to, this is pretty important to be able to understand what we know about the atom and how we learned that. An atom is so small and we can't see it and we can't see the parts of it. Most of you would all say that the parts of an atom are a proton, neutron, and electron, but how do you know that? You know that because people have told you, not because you truly have seen it and understand it. So it's important for us to understand how these scientists came up with this understanding, because it's a really major step forward in our chemistry knowledge. So the first one that you need to know is about Dalton. Dalton, as you read in your PowerPoint, had three main parts of his theory. All matter is made up of atoms. Atoms are indestructible and cannot be divided into smaller pieces. And we said, now that's not correct. We know about proton, neutron, electron, but that's what he said. That was his basis of knowledge back in 1800. And all atoms of one element are exactly alike, but are different from atoms of other elements. And now we know a little bit more because we understand isotopes, but this is what he knew back in 1800. So the mnemonic for this is all atoms, only atoms, and distinct atoms. So the very first one talks about atoms. Atoms, atoms, atoms. So Dalton's atom theory had three things. All matter is made up of atoms. That's this first part here. All atoms are indestructible and cannot be divided. So that's the only atoms. Nothing can be divided upon that. And all atoms of one element are exactly alike. So distinct atoms. Each atom is the same of one type but distinct from others. So hopefully you can memorize Dalton's atomic theory had 3 points: all atoms, only atoms, and distinct atoms. So that's the mnemonic to hopefully help you memorize about Dalton's theories and how and what he said about an atom. The next theory in chronological time was Thomson's theory. Thomson, in the mid 1800s, or actually kind of late 1800s, he has what we call the cookie dough theory. And the mnemonic then is all T's. Thomson tasted electron cookies. So again, a mnemonic, we have Thomson T, tasted electron, there's a T in there, cookies. So TTT is for Thomson. He tasted electron cookies. So he discovered that within an atom there are actually subparts. He found that there was this negative electron, and he thought it was like the chocolate chips in cookies, that there were just these bits of negative things sprinkled throughout the atom. So Thomson tasted electron cookies, TTT. Hopefully can help you memorize what Thomson did and how he furthered our knowledge of the atom. The next one is Rutherford. Rutherford's mnemonic is Rutherford's own gold protons. All right, now we came up with this mnemonic because Rutherford reminds us of a very old, bureaucratic, rich family's name, like the Rothschild family back in America, or there's a couple other families with similar names. So Rutherford, we thought, is a very kind of aristocratic type of name. They have a lot of money or gold. So Rutherford used the gold foil experiment to look at what makes something gold. The number of protons. So the number of protons tells us what atom it is. So he used the gold foil experiment to discover another part of the atom, which is the proton. Hopefully that can help you memorize Rutherford and what he knew about the atom. Next is Chadwick. Chadwick's mnemonic is Chadwick completes the nucleus with an N. So now we know the atom, we know the electron, we know the proton. So CCC, Chadwick completes nucleus. So CCC, Chadwick completes the nucleus with the N, or the neutron. And the last one we have a mnemonic for would be Bohr. Couple different ways that you could memorize this. The one given in the PowerPoint said Bohr was like the aurora borealis, which looked at the planets. The other way I have used to memorize this this theory is it's boring. All right, so Bohr said there were rings, or if you use the other mnemonic, like planets going around the sun, the electrons are in rings, like the planetary model. So now we know the parts of the atom. Bohr went further and said where those electrons were located. The very last one, we haven't come up with a mnemonic, and we're actually hoping you might be able to come up with some way to memorize this easily. Schrödinger went further in electrons, and he said rather than electrons being in rings like planets around the sun, that electrons are in clouds, or in a certain kind of what's called statistical model. Basically, it's a basic statistical model telling us where you're probably going to find them. So if you could come up with some kind of mnemonic to memorize Schrödinger's electron cloud theory, that would be great. We'd love to hear about how you've done that on your discussion board. Thanks for listening.